StreamYard tech. Sorry about that. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Saturday afternoon. It's a beautiful, gorgeous, sunny afternoon. Almost February 2021. It's amazing that almost a 10th of the year has gone by already. And lots of things are changing. Lots of things are growing, getting better. I think getting stronger for a lot of people. I think we're learning and starting to have strong realizations about things, a lot more clarity. So today, what I'm going to be talking to you about is establishing your authority and three primary magical methods that I have for quickly beginning to develop your authority and quickly seeing results, having quick wins, so that doing your marketing through authority activities becomes fun and enjoyable and something that you want to continue doing constantly. Happy Saturday to you as well. Thank you so much for the good wishes, whoever you are, Facebook user. At least I know that's not me. If I only have one viewer, which I don't, but if I only had one viewer, I'd be like, was that me that made that comment? And life is funny in this apartment. We haven't had hot water for a couple of days, I think since Thursday. And now they sent us a message earlier this morning that they're going to be fixing the hot water as soon as possible by Wednesday. So yeah, I'm drinking a lot of hot tea. Using my hot water bottle. Unfortunately, hot baths are not in my activity right now. So as I was saying, for the distraction, today what I'm going to be talking about is methods of building your authority for your book, and really the easy methods that work for me. It is cheap, it is easy, it is fast, but it also, like publicity, like marketing, like any advertising, there aren't guarantees. And one of the really big things that I've learned myself through this experience is that you do need to have practice for your message. Just showing up at any media channel, at any event, at any opportunity to talk about yourself, about your book, about your message and your purpose. If you're just showing up without any previous experience and you show up at the biggest possible stage, and you begin to talk about yourself and your book and your work, without having had previous feedback from other people about how they're responding to you, it doesn't go as well. Every opportunity that you have to develop publicity is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And so the very first magical method that I like to use always brings me back to the belief, the saying that it's not what you know, it's who you know in business. And that is the biggest thing for me about authority. One of the things that I realized when I first launched my business, when I first became self-employed, was that all of the jobs, the gigs, the referral clients, the opportunities that I was generating, developing, having come my way, all of those opportunities were coming from people who had met me through the 15 years that I had been living and working in Toronto prior to that. And I met a lot of people in my job as an ad agency media buyer. And I actively tried to connect with as many people as I could that I had known, that I enjoyed and didn't really dislike or didn't find, the people that I really didn't fit with. Of course, I haven't connected with them, or I've disconnected with them since. But the benefit of staying connected and keeping them up to date. So what happened was, in 2009, after 13 years, 2010, I think, 14 years of working in advertising agencies, I was unemployed and decided to make all of my efforts for job hunting online, on Facebook. Basically, I was going to do all of it by networking. And I was going to ensure that people on Facebook knew what I could offer, what I had to offer. And I was going to basically get clients and bridge the gap. And so what I did, the first thing I did was I set up a group on Facebook, and this actually 2008 was when I set up the group. And within 3 weeks of talking within the group about what I could do to help people, and groups were different at this time. Groups were actually, they functioned more like pages 10 years ago on Facebook, or more than that. They functioned more like pages. And so I could post in the group and it would go out to my friends across social media. And so I did have someone find me and hire me very early. It was my first ever book author that hired me, not the first book author, publisher, or retailer that I had worked with. Because of my years in advertising, I had the opportunities to work with Indigo and Random House, Penguin, a number of big publishers, a number of big retailers for books, as well as some individual authors. But when it came to the individual authors, I wasn't meeting them in person for the most part, unless they were actually on a television show that we were buying advertising space on. So what happened was, when I was job hunting and doing it on social media, all I was doing was sharing on a regular basis on my profile, on my group, on whatever, platform that I could. I was sharing what I was learning about social media and sharing what I was learning about, 5 years ago, what I was learning about book publishing. And now still sharing what I'm learning about book publishing and what you can learn about book publishing. So what was happening was, just by keeping the people just by connecting to people that I had met in the past, that I had a working relationship with previously, I already had a professional relationship with them. Absolutely, Maury. I will send that to you. Thank you. Maury just requested the playbook with the hashtag playbook, and I will send out the link in DM. I promise, absolutely, this afternoon. I know a lot of people I have said I was going to send it out to, and I think probably, let me call it imposter syndrome, or just fear of releasing something big. I have really, really enjoyed everyone that I've shared the playbook with so far in the last 4 and 5 months. I've been sharing it with individuals. Almost every single one of those people is deciding to jump into the mastermind community that I've created, where we're working together, all of us, to build our authority, to share ideas, to share encouragement, to work through challenges and things that we just don't know. I'm bringing to the table my ways and methods of building authority, and everyone else in the community as a published author, as a do-it-yourself published author. They're the kind of people that take really good, fast instruction, take notes, and then take action, and figure out what works for them through taking action. So the community is getting really, really strong. And like I said, I've been sending out the playbook to, I think I probably sent it out to about a dozen people in total in 4 months. I'm almost embarrassed to admit that. I'm so sorry. Because I know that there's about 100 people that have requested it. And I'm so happy. I just, I don't know. Like I said, anyone who requests it today, like you, Maury, I'm definitely going to send it out to you immediately. So anyways, let me get back to these 3 magical methods. And the first one, really thinking about who are the people that you've met in your life. The more that you can connect on social media with them, just as a friend, just friend connect with people that you've worked with, people that you've spoken to. There was a method years ago, I don't know if it still exists, where you could download the email addresses of all of your LinkedIn people and then upload them into Facebook for sort of like a batch friend request. Now I have 11,000 connections on LinkedIn, and more than nearly 5,000 friends on Facebook. So it's of no value for me to upload those connections anymore. But if you have connections established on other platforms, if Facebook is a big platform for you, which is the only place I'm streaming today, so that's where you're watching me, then connecting with the people that you've met in your past is a great way of just keeping them up to date, just keeping yourself top of mind without selling, right? Like I do a sort of a lot of promotion, maybe a lot of self-promotion, but I don't know. I feel like maybe on my own profile, I really don't post that much on my own profile, other than about book publishing and, things that I want everyone to see about what I'm working on, about what I'm excited about who I'm working with, and what they're excited about, and what the opportunities are out there for you. But when it comes to inside of Facebook groups and networking, I'm much more open and transparent, just because it's, you choose, I guess it feels a little bit more protected in groups sometimes. But what I like is that whenever I'm excited about something, for me, I'm not active on Twitter or especially LinkedIn. I'm definitely not active on Instagram. If you go look at my Instagram feed, I think it's Sparkle Agency is my Instagram. I had this account 10 years ago, and I haven't figured out how to post on Instagram. So, if you're looking for information on Instagram, unfortunately, I'm no help there whatsoever. But regardless of what the platform is that you're using, that you connect with your audience on, for me, that is Facebook. I've just always been on Facebook, and so far I have no real need to be on other platforms. I'm sure that will change at some point, probably very, very soon. I hope not, but if it does, it does. I'm fine with that as well. But the thing is that I have connected on LinkedIn, yes, but on LinkedIn, like I said, I have 11,000 connections on LinkedIn. They allow for 50,000 connections. On Facebook, I really did a lot more connecting with people who I'd worked with in my past than on LinkedIn, where I connected with a lot of people just in general. What happens is every time I update Facebook, people who have worked with me in the past are seeing what I'm working on now, and I'm being top of mind. And some people are getting value from it and interacting and engaging with me, giving me the opportunity to show how my business is going, how my business is working. So what happens is every time I do these videos, not every time, but quite often when I do these videos, I have a little bit of audience interaction. I get some views, but very often what will happen is someone will send me a DM. About 50% of the time, there's someone that I've never interacted with before, that they're my friend on Facebook, but I don't know them. And the other 50% of the time, there's someone that I do know and have worked with before, or have met in person before, or have connected relatively closely in the nearly 15 years that I've been on Facebook, have had some closer connections during that time. And they're reaching out to me because they remembered what I'm doing and what I'm working on, and they're having that problem at the time. So really it's about seeding my message out there and sort of letting my message color my pages, my posts, so that it's a part of everything that I put out there. And every time I'm posting, it means that the people who are most likely to want to work with me, most likely to want to hire me, the people who know, like, and trust me, who are around me all the time, that they have lots of reasons to reach out and speak to me about whatever's on their mind. And that is just by posting on my Facebook profile. And sometimes I won't post for a day or two or three. Sometimes I post 3 and 4 or 5 times in a day. The other day I had the exact same post 7 times in a row, unbeknownst to me. Somebody else pointed it out to me, but it happens. It's a part of Facebook. It's nothing that really matters. Sometimes people will get annoyed and say that I'm selling too much, or I'm promoting too much, or everything's all about me on Facebook, which is fine. It's not for everybody. I'm not for everybody. But what I will tell you is that what I'm doing works for me. It works for me. It's bringing me business. It's building my business. I'm making strong connections with individuals, and I'm not trying to scale those relationships. I would love to find a way to scale and multiply relationships, but what I've found a way to do is really make the effort that we put into establishing publicity and establishing our authority, so that when we reach out to new people and reach out to cold people who are prospects for our business, or people that can assist us or support us or sponsor us in one way or another, when we reach out to them, that individual relationship already wants to speak to you, is happy to see that you're contacting them, that you're reaching out to them. Thank you so much, Richard. I appreciate your presence as well. So the most important thing that you can do is really just recognize that I think we all have some levels of social anxiety. We all feel like, oh, what if nobody's watching me? Or what if people who are watching me get annoyed because I'm doing it too much? But the most important thing is that just focusing on the person that you want to speak to, focusing on the real connection that you can make in that opportunity. So The very first thing that I want to recommend to you, I love how these videos go so long every time. And my coach tells me to do 10 and 15-minute videos max. And that long videos, people don't watch them. And I totally agree, but this is a flow. I love talking. I love establishing my message and getting clear about it by talking to you and sharing it and getting feedback. And so that's why I'm here today. So let me get into the first one. So the first one, which leverages, it's not what you know, it's who you know. The first method, the magical method that I love, is creating your own show. And that's nothing new. We all know that. You can create your podcast. You can create a vlog or video blog where you're interviewing people. But what is really magical about the method that I've developed, and I say that with a lot of grains of salt, because I'm sure I did not come up with it all my own, although nobody taught it to me and I'm teaching it to you now. It came out of a lot of help. The first method is really creating your own show and inviting authorities, inviting influencers, inviting the people who are celebrity names within that niche, within your topic, to be interviewed on your show. But what's really different is when you invite their fans onto the show to connect with them, to interview them themselves instead of you. So what you're doing is you're producing and hosting the show, which still gives you the time to interview and connect with the authority, the influencer, the celebrity that you've invited on your show. But the key element of inviting on their fans and their audience and finding people within your audience who are their biggest fans, inviting them onto the show, it does two things, two main things. One is it gives you something to offer to them, the authority. It gives you something to offer them that is completely different in your media channel than almost all other media exposure opportunities that they're being offered. That they're having people reach out to them and say, hey, we'd love to have you on my podcast. I'd love to have you on my live stream. I'd love to interview you for this or that or the other thing. One thing that's really, really rare for them is to have a different kind of conversation with their fans where they don't have to do the work to organize it. Right? You're doing the work to organize it. You're really giving them something very different and something that they constantly want, especially book authors want and need the opportunity to interact directly. I'm not sure if my video is still running. Oh, here we go. Especially book authors want and need the opportunity to interact with their audience directly. And so if you're reaching out to celebrity names who are book authors, they know, listen, I have to be promoting my book all the time. I'm always looking for opportunities to share my book with new audiences, with bigger audiences. When you reach out to them and you say, listen, I've got a few of your biggest fans who are really excited to talk to you. I'd love to invite you onto my show where myself and them will interview you on this particular subject that is important for all of us. When you do that, you're really giving them a new kind of conversation for them to participate in. And it takes a lot of pressure off of them. And not only that, but it takes a ton of pressure off of you. And I love doing this because it means I don't have to be the expert in order to host the show. I'm not the expert at all. All I am is the person doing the work to produce the show, to produce the conversation. I'm creating a safe space for the conversation to happen and bringing the people together. For me, my show is like a dinner party where I'm carefully selecting who are the other 6 or 8 people that are going to be joining me and my assistant or my partner, so that we have 10 or 12 people, 10 people on the live stream at once. I really look at what are the relationships that I can connect, that I can curate. And when you bring your audience on, the second thing that it does, when you bring on fans for the celebrity book author or the influencer, the authority, when you bring on their fans who are also your fans to interview them themselves, there's a really good likelihood that that audience member is going to want to share the content that you've created with their whole audience. So there you're starting to go viral and getting them to share your content, which is ultimately what you want. The content that you're creating, you want people to share it. If you write an article for a existing media channel, for a mass media channel, you want the readers, the fans within your audience, the fans of the brands that you're talking about, the entrepreneurs that you're talking about, to be sharing your content with their audience, building the audience for the media channel and exposure for yourself. I hope I'm not going too fast. Let me know if you need me to slow down or if you need me to explain anything clearly, right? I don't know. I kind of went off on a tangent. I'm not sure if I explained it carefully, but I think I did. The point is, when you're going to be hosting your own show, I really, really, really want to encourage you. And it doesn't have to be every time. I mean, obviously, this whole series of me talking is just me talking. I haven't even started interviewing people yet. I want you to try it and see what happens, because it is literally magical what happens. Not only do you get your authorities and authors and influencers and potential media channel journalists joining your production, joining your conversation, which is content that you own, that you can repurpose and sell and monetize and do anything and everything you want with for the rest of your life. What happens is it's making everyone stronger and happier, more connected to you. Right? People start to feel like the show that you're producing, that they participate in regularly, or that they watch, or that they look forward to, is their show, because they're contributing to making it. That they're looking forward to who is the next author. It's a good place, Dante. It's a good place. What's that? Facebook is a good place. I would agree with you. I like it. I think, a lot of us are having problems. Even my ad account got shut down and I wasn't running ads. So I still am a little bit frustrated and have to get my ad account back up so that I can start running ads. So let me go on to the second way of creating authority, magical method of creating authority. And I talk about this all the time because it is the one when every time I work a full-time job, I go into my part-time job. If I have a full-time job 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, I make my evenings and weekends, my spare time, my personal time, I make them working on my authority outside of my full-time job. I make working on my authority my hobbies. So I spend a little bit of time every day. No, I'm not going too fast. Good pace. Oh, good pace. That's right. Thank you so much. I'm sorry. I didn't even read very well. What was I saying? Okay, I can't remember. But the second way of creating authority is really putting yourself out into the media channels. So it is both getting publicity and creating content, but getting publicity, like you can do it immediately, but the thing is that it's not going to drive traffic to your business the same way that creating content will. Publicity is a good thing. Publicity is definitely a good thing. But it just generally, publicity doesn't create a rush of sales the way that you hope it will. And so investing in publicity, I caution authors to be very careful about how they invest in their publicity and how they intend to have results of publicity, because you're really not in control. You're presenting yourself as best as you can, which, you know, we're learning, we're improving, but we're not, you know, we're doing what we can, which is not perfect. So there's always going to be room to improve. And you don't, I mean, it's the effort of publicity, of course, like I said earlier, I believe, you don't want to show up at the biggest media channel with absolutely no practice. And so a really, really safe way to drive audience and to build your authority and to expose your message and your purpose and your intelligence and your magic to other people, the way that I love is actually writing content, producing content. It doesn't even have to be written anymore. It could be video or audio or slides, however you want to create it, or a mixture of all of them, where you are producing content for existing media channels that fit your audience. Now, I'm just trying to think if I need to go down the tangent of how do you choose those media channels or not. Do you have in mind the people who are still watching, people who are watching at the moment? Let me know in the comments. Do you have a media channel in mind that if you had, that would be perfect? If they were to call you and say, listen, we want to give a feature article about you and your business to our audience, what would that media channel be? Do you know? Or is that something that you want me to talk about, how you determine which media channels you want to look at producing content for? I don't know. Okay, I'm not going, nobody said anything, so I'm going to move on. I'm going to presume that you understand how to create or how to choose those media channels. But the thing is, writing articles or producing content for the media channels itself is actually not that difficult. The most difficult part about it is the amount of time that it takes for you to immerse yourself within that media channel, within their existing content, to observe, okay, I will, to observe what type of content they present to their audience, how they speak, the tone and voice, and how they structure their articles, the content that is being produced, whether it's a video or written article, how they structure it so that the audience engages and reacts and takes action. And it really is just a matter of observing to learn how to write or produce content for a particular media channel, because they're very public about what works. You don't see yourself doing more than Facebook, and I haven't ever done anything yet, but I want to one day. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Well, that's where it starts. I've been obsessed with media channels my whole life, and I was 30, let's see, I was 32 years old when I had my first big media exposure. I had a full-page article in the national newspaper. I was working full-time for an ad agency, but I was also launching yoga for golfers, private instruction, as with myself as the instructor, in Toronto. And the national newspaper picked up on my press release that I sent out individually by email to individual editors and journalists at media channels across Ontario. I sent it out to about 400 individually. And I had one really tiny newspaper, really tiny local newspaper editor, journalist, writer, pick up my email that they had printing out, the press release emails. He picked up my email, and it turned out that they shared the editor's desk with the national newspaper. And the national newspaper editor saw my press release and said that would be perfect for writing an article for the national paper. So the national paper picked it up, did a full-page article about my yoga for golfers, did a photo shoot with me and one of my clients in a golf studio that was a training studio of a friend that I was working with and doing some authority work with. But also he was allowing me to teach yoga classes in his space. And so I was able to share the publicity and exposure with his business, also with my client, who was another entrepreneur, the golfer. It really, though, it happens by surprise. I wasn't in control, but what I was in control of was the fact that I went home every night after my job and I sat down at my computer. I also had the television on. I also made sure that I ate dinner and, maybe went to a yoga class or did whatever after work. But when I got home at night, I would have about 3 hours of time to dedicate to watching television or reading books or cleaning my apartment or any sort of hobby or sport that I wanted to do. And what I chose was figuring out how to establish authority and figuring out how to give more exposure to golfers' business so that I could earn money masses without having to spend all my time doing marketing. Because marketing and I had, when I first started as a yoga teacher 2 years earlier, before I started thinking about, let me see if I can get into media and build some authority for myself, I was actually delivering flyers that I had printed out myself and cut individual pieces of paper into 4 squares. And I was going out and putting them under the windshield wipers of cars in the neighborhood of where I was teaching yoga classes to try and let all of the people who lived in that neighborhood know about the yoga classes that I had. And that was exhausting. And it brought in a few students, but it really wasn't very fun. It was almost sort of demoralizing type of marketing. It wasn't very fun. And it didn't work for me. I didn't like it. It didn't give me the same sort of feeling in my gut, like, wow, people are really starting to recognize that what I'm doing is different and good, and I should talk about it more. And when the national newspaper article came out, what was interesting was that I had said nothing really. I wasn't saying anything at that point at my job, my full-time job at the ad agency, about the guest blogging that I was doing for golf blogs, and the article writing that I was doing for magazines, travel magazines and golf magazines. I wasn't talking about the publicity that I was trying to generate for myself as a Yoga for Golfers instructor when I was at work. But I did know that the CEO of the company was an avid golf fan. He liked to golf himself. And what was really funny was that he was a nice CEO. He was the kind of guy who would come around and say hello to people in the mornings. But the day after the article came out on the weekend, on the Monday morning, he came by my cubicle and spent an extra 5 minutes chatting with me. And he did that because he had seen the article, and he knew that this was his employee that sits at her cubicle all day long, who also just had about a $40,000 article, value of $40,000 in media space written about her. With a media exposure. This was the National Post, so it probably only had about 300,000 circulation at that time on a Saturday. But still, that's not bad, right? For my very first. And what was really amazing was that after that, people, other media channels, other golf magazines, other local magazines were quoting me were quoting me about Yoga for Golfers, taking quotes from the article, from the interview that I had done with the National Post, and they were quoting from the National Post article in their own media channels, quoting me, and they didn't even have to tell me about it. I would just Google myself and discover, oh, here's another magazine that has written about me, that has quoted me for something about Yoga for Golfers. And any time anything was going on with athletes, with golf, I started having charity events, golf tournaments, asking me to show up and teach. Would I please come out and teach their celebrities and their golfers some yoga moves to keep them loose on the golf course? I had, it was Toronto Maple Leafs alumni charity golf tournament. So there were a whole bunch of Toronto Maple Leafs that showed up. And that morning, I was the official yoga teacher for this golf tournament that was at a very fancy golf course near Toronto. It was at Glen Abbey, actually. It was a pretty big tournament. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're still talking 16 years ago, so forgive me if I get it wrong. But the City TV, which is the sort of local Ontario television channel that does news and local interviews, had showed up to do some segments in their breakfast show, and also had me do a golf swing and hit to do some exercises on the morning television. So I actually had exposure on local morning television live when they were talking about the Toronto Maple Leafs alumni charity golf tournament. And it happened because I sent my press release out to some guy that was the sports editor at a tiny little print newspaper, that happened to share an editor's room, a newsroom, with the editor of the national paper. So it really snowballed in many, many ways. And that is starting to create publicity for yourself, creating authority for yourself, getting involved with media channels and getting to know who the journalists are, friending them, friending both the authorities that you would like to interview and the audience that you'd like to interview with the authorities, as well as the journalists who you'd like to have interview you. Connecting with them on social media. I guess, to be honest with you, today's chat is more about, it's not what you know, it's who you know through all of the points than just the first point. So if you want to learn more, if you really want to establish more authority this year in 2021, I want to urge you to reach out to me and ask about the mastermind community that I have. At the moment, memberships are, I still have beta memberships available because I'm working out how the memberships are working and the pricing and the value that people are getting. So I do have it on a monthly subscription or an annual rate. Both are probably going up very, very soon. The next masterclass that we're doing inside of the mastermind community, every couple of months, I do a masterclass to reset the authority that you've established for yourself so far. Whether or not your book is about to come out, anytime in the next year that your book is coming out and you want to establish your authority now, or if you published your book years ago, and you're really not satisfied with the amount of sales and the way, if you're just not satisfied the way that people are looking at you as a result of having published your book, I want to encourage you to reach out to me, grab a copy of the playbook. Remember to comment #playbook. Grab a copy of the playbook from me. I will send it out to everyone who's commented today in DM. I want to have a chat with you. I want to make sure that you understand the elements of the playbook that are the most useful to you, so that you can get really good value out of it and use it to play around and ensure that you never again have the feeling like you don't know what is the next best thing for you to do for your book marketing. Let me know in comments or DM, just reach out to me if you want to work with me. Again, the next masterclass is actually going to be next Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. So if you want to work with me, join the mastermind community. The masterclass included is free. But because I have the monthly membership, which you can cancel anytime at the moment, it's beta. So I want as much flexibility for me as for other people as well. The monthly membership really allows you the opportunity to come in, participate in the masterclass next Saturday, check out a few weeks worth of the deep dive training that I do. Currently, it's every Tuesday night. It's a live training with members of the audience where I dive deep into whatever people are working on in the mastermind community, whether that be writing your press releases, making your books into bestsellers, beginning to produce and launch your own content where you're inviting authorities to participate in it. And really, I can absolutely help with producing your book, with publishing your book, but it's not the focus of the community. And the reason why it's not the focus of the community is because I do have publishing services separately, but I have always wanted to be able to help authors who are like myself, the do-it-yourself kind of person who figures out how to publish on Amazon and goes ahead and does it, and doesn't need me to teach them how to use this the basic platforms, who the kind of person who has learned from their experience with Amazon, that they can figure out how to use any other platform, and that any other platform that they can't figure out, it's because the platform has a problem, not them. So the reality is, it's not comfortable. It's not easy. As I said at the beginning of this chat, I've had probably 100 people request my playbook. And while every single person that I've sent it out to, I had one person who saw the initial version of my playbook and he really did not like it very much. And then I sent him the Trello Board version of the playbook and he could not stop talking about how awesome it was. And then almost everybody else other than that has loved it, whether they've seen the initial version that was really not very attractive and on Google Slides, or they've seen the new version, which is attractive and interactive, and you can play around with it and poke around with it, and engage and interact. People really, really like it. So you want to give yourself time overall when you're trying to create authority. The best way to do it is to still continue to focus on what's working in your business. If your business has just started and you're desperate for sales, I don't think that authority is going to give you necessarily, I don't think it gives you reliable sales. Authority can bring you big sales. It can bring you big contracts. When I first announced my first book, all I did was give the working title out on my personal Facebook profile. And within a couple of months, I had a $40,000 consulting contract on the subject of my new book. And the company that I was consulting for on that subject was part of the reason why they hired me, not only because I was Canadian, they're Canadian, they required a Canadian consultant on this project because their budget was from the government of Canada. And I was the only person in the country that had said that they were writing a book on this particular subject. So it made me the perfect person to hire for a consulting contract. And the very first proposal, they asked me for an RFP, a request for a proposal document. The very first proposal that I sent to them was for about $12,000 or $13,000, and they actually had a budget that was more than triple that amount. And the client, before hiring me, when we were in negotiations, after seeing my first proposal for $12,000 or $13,000, she said she really liked it, but they had a bigger budget. And could I increase the size of this contract? And I could, of course, absolutely. I was happy to. I was shocked. I had never considered, like 12 or 13,000. I was really happy to have that just as a proposal. I was really fingers crossing that they were going to give it to me. But when she told me that, their budget was bigger, I started to understand that it's not about the price that I have. It's about the need that they have. It's not about the package that I have. It's about the way that they can sell me very easily to the people that have budget, the people that are approving their budget. What made me so easy to sell into this consulting contract was two things. One, I'm Canadian. And two, I'm the only Canadian they could find that was writing a book on this particular subject that they wanted me to consult on. And finally, they hired me to work on their program, on their the subject of the consulting was Google Plus Hangouts on Air, which are now YouTube live streams. They had hired me to help them produce their own show, and it was a university. One of the reasons why they hired me not long after I had announced that I was starting to write this book, is because they wanted the opportunity to potentially be a case study or a story within my book, where I shared the value of doing Google Plus Hangouts on air and how some different companies could do it in successful ways. And so they knew that if they hired me while I was working on the book to work on the exact same subject of the book, and we had a good engagement, we had some good results that I could talk about, that it would work out really well for them in the book. It wasn't a part of the contract in any way, shape, or form, because, lots of things happen with books. They were not sponsoring the book in any way. And as it turns out, this is a book that was put on hiatus. My work on it was put on hiatus. And it hasn't come back yet. I might, in fact, I'm quite likely to adjust it and publish it in the next year or so. But that particular company, they got from me, we did the consulting that we worked together. I learned a lot, but I also changed directions very quickly. And as the Google Plus Hangouts on Air was also changing directions very quickly, my work on the book really just kind of got sidelined. And I found myself focusing more on book publishing very quickly than I was on Google Hangouts on Air. I was more obsessed with book authors and the authors who I was meeting on Hangouts than I was with the Hangouts platform itself. So all that being said, if you want to boost your authority in the next year, if you want the opportunity to work with me, reach out to me and we'll talk on DM. I will send you the playbook. Everyone who's commented today, thank you for that. And if you watch this video later and you want me to reach out to you, just leave a comment and I'll see it at some point and reach out to you. You're also free to DM me and let me know that you'd like a copy of the playbook, or if you have your book, if you want help with publishing your book, I'm absolutely happy to talk to you about that. And I'll be able to send you a link where you can schedule a call with me to talk about your publishing options and your marketing and promotional opportunities, and see if working with me sounds like it might be the right path for you. What people really like about working with me as a publisher is that they get to hold on to 100% of the rights of their content, of their book. Every channel that I set up for them as their publisher, I use their email address and their password that they choose. They can change the password anytime they want, to work with somebody else. But it doesn't usually happen until they're deciding, our contract is complete. Or I just don't log in anymore. I haven't really seen that many people change their passwords, but the point is that it's within their control. My authors receive 100% of their royalties directly, and every single cost that I recommend that my author clients decide that they want to move forward with, every single cost, they know the actual transparent cost, the truth full cost of that. And I don't charge markups on anything, unless I have to put in more time myself into it. Then there's likely a charge for my fees and my time working on it. But other than that, and whenever I buy anything for my clients, it's really important that authors, I feel, it is really important that authors understand the cost of everything that they invest in and everyone that they invest in. So authors that work with me know exactly how much they're paying for my time and energy and how much they're paying for everything else. As well, they're receiving all of their royalties directly. They're 100% in control of their pricing, their retail platforms, whether their book is available or not, when it's available and not, making updates to their books. Completely, everything is within their control. They're fully in the driver's seat for the entire time, including the time working with me. But the benefit is, even though I'm not a traditional publisher, and they get all the benefits of self-publishing, of being able to be in control and manage their costs and their pricing, the benefit is you can still be published by me, which is a more authoritative position as well. So I've just realized that I haven't eaten lunch yet, and I'm getting this really powerful hunger. It's making it hard to talk. So I'm going to go because I've spoken for a little bit over an hour and I'm starting to lose my voice as well. But thank you so much, everybody who tuned in today. I really appreciated all of your comments and likes, and it's always good to talk and to see how you feel about what I've got to say. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I'll be back next week. We'll have, or at some point, I may open up the masterclass next Saturday to individual attendees. And if that's something that you're interested in, if you're interested in perhaps just joining me exclusively for the masterclass and not for the mastermind community yet, let me know, because I'm open to that, right? Like I said, it's beta. I'm doing a lot. Yes, I will send you the playbook. Absolutely. Thank you for requesting that. And everybody enjoy the rest of your Saturday afternoon. I hope if I don't see you again before Valentine's Day, I hope you have a lovely Valentine's Day and a wonderful, warm, sunny February. And it will be March before we know it. Have a great day, everybody.